Ladies and gentlemen, let's cut through the noise. You don't need 30-day challenges, vision boards, or endless affirmations to manifest what you desire. You need just one thing, a shift in consciousness. The world you experience is not happening to you, it is happening through you. Manifestation begins not with action, but with imagination. Close your eyes for a moment and feel this. The desire you have, whether it's love, wealth, health, already fulfilled, not in some distant future, not as a wish, but as something done, complete, real. Most people live from their senses, waiting for proof before they believe. But true creation happens the other way around. You believe, then you see. The secret is simple. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. If you want to be loved, don't wish for love, feel loved. Dwell in the inner knowing that it is already yours. Want abundance? Don't chase money. Embody wealth in your mind, your posture, your mood. Feel the freedom it brings. Let that become your natural state. This isn't pretending, this is living from the end. When you assume a new state and persist in it, the outer world bends to match the inner. And here's the most beautiful part. You don't have to know how it's going to happen. That's not your job. Creation is finished. The bridge of incidents, the events that lead to the outcome, will unfold on their own. Trust the process. Walk by faith, not by sight. Now, a word of caution. Don't let your senses talk you out of what you've assumed. The moment doubt creeps in, return to the feeling. Feel it real again. Re-enter the scene in your imagination and stay there until it feels natural. And if something in the past is haunting you, rewrite it. Yes, you can. In your imagination, revise the scene as you wish it had gone. Why? Because memory is not static. What you accept as real in imagination becomes truth in your experience. Before I leave you, let me ask this. If everything you imagine tonight were to become true tomorrow, what would you dare to believe? What would you allow yourself to feel? Manifestation is not about effort. It is about alignment, about entering the state of the fulfilled desire and living from it. Now, the world is a mirror. Change the image within, and the reflection must change without. This is not metaphor, not poetry. It is literal. Everything that exists around you now was once imagined. The clothes you wear, the room you're in, the device you're using to read this, all were first thoughts in someone's mind before they ever became tangible. The outer world, most people use imagination passively, often negatively. They worry, they replay failures, they dwell in doubt, and then they wonder why life reflects back fear, scarcity, or struggle. But when you take control of your imagination, when you direct it deliberately, you begin to shape your world instead of reacting to it. Your imagination is the creative faculty by which you plant the seeds of your reality. What you consistently imagine, especially with feeling, begins to take root in the subconscious mind. And it is from this depth that circumstances rise to meet you. The truth is that life doesn't happen by accident. The situations, people, and events you encounter are drawn to you by the assumptions you hold and the scenes you replay in the quiet of your mind. Imagination is not escape, it's cause. It is the workshop of creation, the blueprint for manifestation. When you imagine something clearly and feel it deeply as though it's already true, You're impressing it upon the unseen layers of reality. And reality, by law, must take shape according to that inner blueprint. It's not magic. It's natural. The imagination is always working. The question is, are you guiding it consciously or letting it run wild? To live deliberately is to imagine deliberately. You are not limited by what is. You are limited only by what you accept as possible. When you imagine with conviction and persist in that inner experience, regardless of outer appearances, the world eventually conforms. The seen bends to the unseen. The real follows the imagined. Always. That is the doorway to manifestation. Not hoping, not asking, not waiting. Assuming. To assume is to accept something as already true. To enter the state where your desire is no longer a desire, but a present reality. This is not about fantasizing or daydreaming without belief. It is about a shift in identity. When you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you become the version of yourself who already has what they once longed for. You don't look at the desire from a distance. You step into it, claim it, and embody it. Feel the emotions you would feel if your desire were already yours. Would you feel relief, confidence, joy, gratitude? Move into that emotional state now. Let it color your thoughts, your posture, your energy. Walk through the world as if it were already done. Because in truth it is. Once you accept it within, creation is complete. Now this assumption must be vivid and real to you. You must lose yourself in the scene, immerse yourself in the mood, until the imagined experience feels more natural than your current reality. That feeling, that inner conviction, is what draws the unseen into the seen. It impresses itself upon your subconscious, which then orchestrates the outer world to match the inner state. You do not force it. You allow it. You trust it. Even when your senses contradict it, you persist in the assumption. You don't beg reality to change. You assume it already has. You move, speak, think, and feel from that new place. This is the great secret. Consciousness is the only reality. And the moment you assume a new state of being, the world must rearrange itself to reflect it. Not immediately, not always in ways you expect, but always with certainty and precision. The feeling is the key. It is the bridge. It is the language through which your inner world communicates with the outer. When you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you collapse time. You bring tomorrow into today. You awaken a new version of yourself who no longer waits because there is nothing left to wait for. Not toward it, not in search of it, but from it. This means to occupy the state where your desire is already realized. To think from the outcome, not of it. When you live from the end, you abandon striving and replace it with certainty. You become the person who already has what they once pursued. This is not about faking or pretending. It's about aligning your inner world so precisely with your desired reality that it becomes your natural dwelling place. Your reactions change, your choices change, even your energy shifts because you're no longer waiting, you're responding to a reality that already exists in consciousness. When you live from the end, you don't constantly look for signs or ask when it will come. You don't negotiate with doubt. You know. And from that knowing, a quiet confidence grows. Your thoughts, words, and actions all begin to flow from that fulfilled place. You begin to walk in harmony with your desire rather than chasing it. This is the posture of creation. To think and feel and act as the person who already is already has, already knows. You're no longer the seeker, you are the receiver. You don't need to see the physical evidence first. That's the old model of cause and effect. But the real creative power comes when you reverse that pattern, when you first feel it real and allow the world to conform. Living from the end means you're not swayed by appearances. Temporary lack, delay, or contradiction doesn't move you because your inner reality is fixed. The end is already yours. And because it is, everything else becomes a stepping stone, each moment unfolding perfectly to match the reality you've already claimed. The state is quiet, stable, and self-sufficient. It doesn't chase, it attracts, it doesn't plead, it assumes. To live from the end is to accept the outcome as done so completely, so naturally, that your world has no choice but to reflect it. What you see, hear, touch, and experience is not separate from you. It is a mirror of your inner state. The beliefs you hold, the assumptions you live by, the emotions you regularly feel, these shape the conditions of your life. Not randomly, not occasionally, but consistently and lawfully. There's chaos in the outer world, it began as disorder within. If there's harmony, it started with clarity and peace in the mind. The outer world has no power of its own. It simply reveals what has been planted within you, often without your conscious awareness. It shows you where your attention dwells, where your loyalty lies. You cannot experience abundance while holding inner conversations of lack. You cannot live a life of love while imagining rejection, betrayal, or fear. The outer must follow the inner, just as a shadow follows form. There is no exception to this. When you change your inner conversations, you change the script of your life. When you choose to see yourself as worthy, whole, and already fulfilled, the world adjusts to match that self-perception. You begin to attract different circumstances, people, and opportunities, not because the world suddenly became kinder, but because you did. This isn't about forced positivity or pretending things are fine when they're not. It's about recognizing your true creative center, the mind, the imagination, the emotional tone you carry moment to moment. The more stable and deliberate your inner state becomes, the more reliable and aligned your outer reality grows. Instead of fighting against appearances or trying to manipulate the external, go inward. That is where real change begins. That is where power resides. When you revise the stories you tell yourself, when you reframe how you see your life, your outer experience cannot help but reflect the new truth you've accepted within. Everything starts inside. The world is not something happening to you, it is responding to you. It is not a matter of trying once or imagining for a moment and then waiting for results. It is the quiet, steady commitment to remain loyal to the assumption of your wish fulfilled, even when nothing outside confirms it, especially when nothing outside confirms it. True manifestation is born not from flashes of inspiration, but from consistent inner conviction. When you persist, you train your mind to stay in alignment with the end you've chosen. You begin to build a new mental habit, a new default state. This is not repetition for the sake of repetition, it is reinforcement. Each time you return to the feeling of your fulfilled desire, you impress it deeper into your subconscious, and from that place, reality begins to move. Most people give up too quickly. They plant the seed, then dig it up the next day because nothing has bloomed. But Creation follows rhythm and law. It takes shape in unseen ways long before it appears to the senses. Persistence is the faith to keep watering the invisible, to keep showing up inwardly, no matter what the outer world seems to say. To persist is to choose the new story again and again, until it becomes natural, until it feels more familiar than the old state of lack, fear, or doubt. You don't argue with appearances. You outgrow them. You don't react to what is. You remain faithful to what you have claimed within. And over time, that inner faith solidifies into fact. Persistence is quiet power. It doesn't demand or force. It assumes and sustains. Even on days when you feel doubt, even when you slip, you return, you remember, you realign. That is the true discipline, to persist in the unseen until it becomes seen. What you hold to within must express without. That is the promise. That is the law. The moment you decide what you want, your only responsibility is to accept it as already yours in imagination and to live from that end. The mechanism by which it comes, the series of events that must unfold, the people who must appear, these are not your concern. They belong to the unseen, to the intelligence that responds to your state of being. Trying to figure out how your desire will manifest only creates resistance. It pulls you out of the feeling of fulfillment and back into the state of not having. It reinforces doubt. The more you try to control the path, the more you delay the outcome. Manifestation does not come from force or strategic effort. It comes from surrender to the truth that what is real within must express itself without. The how is infinite in possibilities. It may come through channels you've never imagined, people you've never met, coincidences you could never plan. And when you insist on one particular method, you block the others. You limit the flow by clinging to one outcome. But when you release the how, you allow the full intelligence of creation to operate freely. Your role is to occupy the state where the desire is fulfilled and remain there in trust. Let the bridge of incidents unfold naturally. Let the right conversations happen, the perfect timing reveal itself, the opportunities come to you without strain. This is not laziness, it's alignment. It's moving with faith rather than fear. Everything you want already exists in a higher reality. The how is simply the unfolding of time catching up to your assumption. Stay in the feeling, persist in the end, and let life surprise you with its accuracy and elegance. The means will come. They always do. Because now is the only moment that truly exists. The past is memory, the future is imagination, but both are shaped by what you do with this present moment. Manifestation doesn't happen someday, it happens here, in the now, when you choose to step into the state of the wish fulfilled. The only time you can assume a new identity, a new belief, a new experience is right now. Waiting until something changes before you feel better keeps you trapped in the same loop. But when you feel the change before it happens, when you decide in this instant that you are the person who already has it, you shift timelines. You move reality by moving your consciousness in this present breath. Now is your point of power. It's where the old self ends and the new one begins. And each time you bring your attention back to now, away from doubt, away from worry, away from what hasn't happened, you reclaim that power. You align with the version of yourself who no longer waits, because the shift has already occurred within. Don't look for signs in the future. Don't wait for proof. Become it now. Think the thought now. Feel the feeling now. Speak the words now. The world responds to who you are being in this moment, not who you say you'll be someday. Your reality reflects your present state, not your wishes, not your potential, but your current assumption. This is why the present moment is sacred. Every second offers you the opportunity to choose again, to return to your vision, to revise your story, to embody your desired end. You don't need to rush or force. You just need to remember and return again and again to the truth you've chosen to live by. Everything you want begins now. The past is not fixed. It is fluid and alive within your imagination. Every memory you hold carries an emotional charge, and often those charges create the conditions you experience now. If a past event was painful, disappointing, or limiting, that emotional impression lingers in your subconscious and influences your present and future. But here lies the power. You have the ability to revisit any moment in your mind and change it, not physically, but by imagining it as you wish it had been. When you revise a memory, you replace the old scene with a new one that supports your desired state. Instead of reliving failure, you imagine success. Instead of replaying rejection, you imagine acceptance. This act is not denial or escape. It is correction. It removes the emotional blockages and shifts your inner state. By changing what you accept as true about your past, you change the lens through which you view your entire life. This change in perception transforms your subconscious assumptions. Since the subconscious doesn't distinguish between real and imagined experiences, it integrates the revised scene as if it were true. And because your outer world reflects your inner world, the external circumstances begin to adjust accordingly. Revision is a tool for healing, empowerment, and creation. It allows you to free yourself from limiting cycles and open the door to new possibilities. You don't have to be a prisoner of your history. You can rewrite it with imagination, and in doing so, rewrite the script of your future. Truth. The past may have shaped your present, but it does not have to dictate your destiny. When you revise, you take control of your story, and reality must respond to the new truth you hold within. Where your mind becomes quiet but alert, calm but focused. This is the state in which your imagination works most powerfully, where the barrier between your conscious thoughts and the deeper subconscious mind softens. In the busy noise of everyday life, your attention is scattered, distracted by countless stimuli, doubts, and worries. But when you intentionally slow down and relax, your inner world becomes fertile ground for creation. This state is often reached in moments of quiet, just before sleep or right after waking, when the mind naturally drifts into a dreamy, receptive mode. In this relaxed awareness, your imagination can paint vivid scenes and emotions without interference from critical thinking or skepticism. You allow yourself to fully experience the feeling of your fulfilled desire as if it is happening now, without resistance or judgment. The relaxed state also reduces tension in the body and mind, which often blocks the flow of creative energy. When you are calm, your subconscious mind is more open to receiving and accepting new impressions. This is the ideal moment to impress upon yourself the reality you wish to manifest, because the subconscious accepts the impressions you give it in this relaxed state as absolute truth. By regularly entering this relaxed awareness, you cultivate a bridge between your waking consciousness and the deeper creative power within. You move beyond intellectual understanding into experiential knowing. The more you practice this, the easier it becomes to hold your desired state, to live from it, and to let it shape your external world effortlessly. Relaxation is not passivity, it is a conscious surrender to the creative flow. It's the stillness from which all things arise. When you learn to enter this state at will, you tap into the pure potential of manifestation itself, trusting the unseen process rather than trying to control or push outcomes through sheer effort. Many believe that if they work hard enough, struggle enough, or force circumstances to bend their way, they will get what they want. But true manifestation is not about strain or battle. It is about quiet confidence and unwavering trust in the power within you and the intelligence that responds to your inner state. When you rely on force, you create resistance. You engage in a tug of war with reality, exhausting yourself and often pushing your desire further away. Force comes from doubt, from the need to prove that what you want is possible. Faith, on the other hand, comes from knowing. It is a calm assurance that what you have imagined and assumed is already real, even if your senses cannot yet confirm it. Faith is a steady flame that doesn't flicker with every change in circumstance. It holds its light regardless of delay, lack, or contradiction. It doesn't argue with appearances, but remains fixed on the truth of the fulfilled desire. This faith is not blind, is born from understanding the laws of consciousness and creation. When you embody faith, you align with the natural flow of manifestation. You release control and allow the creative forces to work on your behalf. You become a magnet for the circumstances, people, and events that will bring your desire into form. This alignment feels effortless, graceful, and powerful all at once. Force is temporary. It tires the body and mind. Faith is enduring. It strengthens the spirit and sustains the creative process. To manifest effortlessly is to choose faith over force, to trust that what you have imagined will appear in perfect time, and to rest in the certainty of your inner knowing until the outer world catches up. Remember, the power to create the life you desire has always been within you. It is not in external circumstances, luck, or other people. It is in the way you imagine, feel, and assume your reality. When you master this inner art, you become the undeniable architect of your world. So choose now to live from the end, to persist with faith and to trust the unseen forces working in your favor. Your reality will reflect exactly what you hold in your heart and mind. Manifestation is not a distant dream. It is your birthright. Step boldly into your power, for the world waits to mirror the greatness you already are.